Hello, and welcome to episode 6 of ProgPod. This is our 4th episode of counting down our top 50 favorite songs of all time. And in this episode, we're going to go from number 20 to number 11. And I'm going to talk a little bit about a live show I've been to recently. So that's what you can look forward to in this episode. Might be like kind of a longer episode.
Yeah, probably. They're just going to increase by an hour each week.
Yeah, exactly, until you get to like 30 hours. All right, so before we get started, I'm going to talk about a live show that I went to recently. I drove up to Columbia last Wednesday and saw Moontooth, which is a band that I've talked about on this podcast before. I did highlighting an artist segment about Nick Lee, who was their guitarist, in episode 2. And they're just like a band I've liked for a while, and they recently released a new album called Crux, which I enjoy. And I'd heard they were really good live, so I was really excited to see him. So I drove up, it's about a 2-hour drive from where we live to go to Columbia, and I got there, and I was kind of surprised. The venue was like very small, and it was kind of like split down the middle, with one side being just kind of a normal bar that you'd see in like any city, and the other side being like standing room and like a stage. It was a pretty small stage. And also, I was kind of surprised to learn that there were 4 bands in total, including Moontooth, and that they weren't actually playing last, even though they were supposed to be the headliner. So it was kind of odd. I think they had like some kind of bus issue where they got there too late or something. Anyways, so it was a cool show. Before any of the shows started, before any of the acts started performing, I like walked around and I went to the merch tent or the merch booth. And I got to talk to Nick Lee himself, the man himself, the guitarist, who's really good. And I got to talk to him for a while, and he was really friendly. And he had to we talked for maybe 5 minutes or so, and then he had to go run off and start getting ready. So it was pretty cool. The first band that started playing was a band called Ort, like O-R-T, not like the Oort cloud. Like the Ort that you eat at dinner, like the leftovers at dinner. Anyways, the band was called Ort, and they were just 2 guys, which is kind of weird, because usually bands I feel like are more than 2 guys, honestly, or less. It's usually either a 1-man show or a 2 is weird. Anyways, so they were an instrumental kind of sludge band, and they had just had a drummer and a guitarist. And they were pretty good. Both of them were pretty good at their instruments. And they had some interesting experimental parts, but they had some weird things about their set list. I was telling Brandon that they pre-recorded all their banter between songs, which I get they're an instrumental band, but it was weird. They didn't really say anything to the audience directly. Even when they were coming on for their last song, or even when they were starting to perform their last song, they didn't say that. They had a pre-recorded guy saying oh, this is the last song, and they did weird stuff that was supposed to be funny, but it really just didn't sink in. They did this one part where they had the pre-recorded voice singing the Jeopardy song with do 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 or whatever. It was just really weird. It was trying to be funny, but it didn't really work out. So that band was okay. They weren't really my cup of tea. They were okay. Do you have anything to say about that, Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, I was telling you how I thought that was really weird. And
yeah.
How, it seems like they put in they could have used their energy elsewhere instead of creating
yeah, exactly.
the pre-recorded
yeah.
things. They could have just easily just used the mic to be hey, this is our last song.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to say much.
Yeah.
But I feel like it just would have on their part.
Yeah, save time.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of extra effort to record your voice.
Yeah, you could spend more time doing anything else.
Yeah, finding some other band members.
Yeah.
Anyways, so yes, they're okay. The next band that came on was a band called Crypt Dweller, and they were definitely the most straightforward, easy to classify band of the night. They were kind of just a death metal band that played somewhat just fast-ish death metal with some cool riffs. But honestly, they were pretty competent. They had their vocalist was probably the highlight for me. He was surprisingly good at pulling off live harsh vocals, which I feel is pretty difficult, without any type of studio stuff. He was really good, and they had a good guitarist and a good bassist, good drummer, and everything. And so I was actually kind of getting into the set. I liked it, and I was kind of surprised to find out that it was actually their first live show ever. that they'd ever had. So that was kind of interesting, especially considering how like tight they were and like they didn't make any mistakes. So then the third band to come on was the band I'd come to see, which is Moontooth, and they were an awesome band. I really loved their set list. I kind of was expecting them to be really good, and they were really good. It's kind of a different situation from, I talked about I saw Eighth Realm like a couple weeks ago, and that was like I wasn't expecting to like them that much, and then I was like kind of blown away. But this Moontooth was basically like I expected them to be really good, and then they were really good. They first played Truth, which is like the first song on their newest album, Trust. I'm dumb. They first played the song Trust from their most recent album, which is kind of like the lead single, and also again the first song. And then they played Omega Days, which was like their second single from the album, and it was one that I thought was really straightforward and like kind of lame when I heard it as a single. But then when I heard it live, and when I heard it as a part of the album, I thought it fit really well. A lot of times singles can be like that.
Yeah.
I think bands sometimes put out their most like widely appealing song like as a single. So anyways, so it was like that. And then they played a song called Ebb and Flow, which was off their first EP. And I was really surprised they brought anything out from that first EP, because like most people don't know it exists, even like people who are fans of them. But it was that was really good and a bit surprising. And after that, they played a couple more songs from Crux. They played one song called Thumb Spike, which is like really good. It's about like just like touring life and like being on the road. And for me, that probably them playing that song was the highlight, because Nick Lee, he was like doing all sorts of acrobatics, like running around the stage and everything, and like climbing on top of like equipment and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. He actually had this one thing where he would like play the guitar normally, and then he would like switch to like playing the guitar like overhand, like a typewriter. And it was really weird. He would do that like without skipping a beat. Like he literally just didn't miss a single beat. And John Carbone, the singer, he was also like a really good frontman. He was like singing really well. The bassist, forget his name. He had like a really fat, delicious bass tone. It was very tasty. And the drummer was really good too. So really good show. They only played one song off Chroma Paragon, which was Igneous, and that was good. I was happy that they played that song, but I wish they had played more from Chroma Paragon. They also played Crux from their most recent album, from the album Crux, and that song was really cool. It has like harsh vocals in it, which apparently Nick Lee actually does the harsh vocals, which I didn't know. I thought John did the harsh vocals, but that was really cool, and it's a very climactic, like explosive song. So it was really good. The set list that they played, their set was like pretty short. It was only like 45 minutes. The first two bands had like less than 30 minutes, honestly. So I was worried that they were only going to get that amount of time by the time they came on, especially since they weren't the last band. But they got some amount of time. They got 45 minutes, so it was pretty good. But not as good as it would have been if they'd had like double that time. So also they only have 2 albums, and they're like pretty relatively short albums. So anyways, so then after that I was going to leave. Also another thing about the show, there were only like 30 people there at most, and most of them seemed to have come in to just like drink and like weren't even paying attention to the fact that there was a band, because like it was like also just a regular bar. Anyways, so I was gonna leave after that and head home, but it actually pretty much all night had been talking to the guy who booked the bands there. He was like a really friendly guy. I basically was like sitting having a brew or whatever. And he was like talking about how Moontooth was awesome and it was like one of his favorite bands. And he like looked. I kind of glanced over. He was like, "Do you know about Moontooth or whatever?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do. I love him." And I like drove up from Charleston to see him. And he was like really impressed and happy that I'd come up. So he convinced me after Moontooth finished to stay for the last band, which is a band called Bathe. And that band is like a really hard to classify band. They're just super sludgy and I'd say very blackened. Because like sludge metal is often kind of seen as like slow. Yeah. But they definitely had a lot of like really fast, like frantic, crazy parts. There's a band called Plebeian Grandstand, which I think that's probably the band that influences Bathe the most. But not even that much. And Bathe, they were like a local Columbia band. So it's kind of interesting. They were very harsh, very dissonant. I think they were like, there was like one moment where like for 3 seconds they played like in unison, and it was like, oh, is this gonna be like the rest of the show? No, but yeah, it was literally 3 seconds like that, and the rest of it was just incredibly dissonant. The lead singer, he's not even a singer, he's just like harsh vocals, screaming his lungs out, contorting his face in all these weird ways. They had this like thing, it was like a podium, or like maybe like a pulpit that they like built instead of a microphone stand that they would use to like use in place of a microphone stand, and it like emitted fog. It was like a smoke machine that was like scented fog, and it was like lit up in a cool way, and it had this like weird little bird skull thing like inside of it that was like red. It wasn't an actual bird skull, obviously. It was just like a thing, but it was pretty cool, and it was almost kind of comical because the main guy, the front man, was really friendly, and like between songs, like he'd be like screaming his head off and like going nuts or whatever, and then between songs he'd just like take a sip of beer and he had like the most normal voice ever, and he'd just be like, yeah, thank you guys for coming out and like supporting these touring acts, and like, you know, it's just great having everyone, and it's really it's kind of funny, and I learned later when I like Googled them afterwards that apparently like all their songs are like it's like kind of a joke band almost, because all their songs are apparently about like hating birds. Yeah, all their songs are like about hating birds, and if you look at their Facebook, they have all sorts of like, but it's obviously like pretty tongue in cheek. Mm-hmm. Like on their Facebook, they have like a video, and it's just like a bunch of like, it's just the lead singer like taking a video on his phone, and it's like of a bunch of vultures just like eating something or whatever, and then like he like watches them do that for 20 minutes, and then like at the very end he like flicks them off. It's like so stupid. It's so funny. And then like they have like jokes about birds and stuff. It's really weird and wacky. But yeah, it was a pretty cool band. That was like definitely my second favorite band out of the two. It was pretty interesting to see. And I got to talk to John Carbone a little bit. I hope I'm saying that right. And he gave me a free T-shirt. So I actually got 2 T-shirts because I bought one, and then he gave me a free one. He was really nice. He was like pretty stoked that I had driven up from Charleston. It was like a 2-hour drive. So yeah, it was cool. And I drove home. Wasn't that bad. Actually, he doesn't even know, but we drove 7 hours to see a concert one time. So
yeah,
so that's like nothing. Yeah. Any words? Anything to say about that?
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna go with Eric, but I could not like get off of work in time, so that was disappointing. Because I don't think I would have beaten the highway traffic to the show. Yeah. Probably like definitely not. What time did you end up leaving?
I left at like 4 or something.
Yeah. I got off at like 5, so
yeah.
Probably, and the show started at 7.
7:30. Yeah.
So, yeah. So I didn't get to go, but I wanted to. It sounded like a good time.
Yeah.
So
it's cool. Yeah. All right. And the venue was like okay, but I will say that my ears hurt a lot more after that. Than they did after like saw Haken or Beatsy Band.
Good venues.
Yeah, and it was like, and it wasn't as loud as that either. Like
yeah,
like so that's kind of the thing about bad sound, like not great sound qualities. Like it doesn't necessarily sound that much louder, but it's just like bad frequencies that like hurt your ears. So, all right, Brandon. So I just rambled on for like 13 minutes, so I'm gonna let you go first.
All right. So we are in the top 20. We're both very anticipatory of what's going to be in these next 20 for us. Yeah. So I'm going to start us off with my number 20. Don't lie. I'm going to start us off with my number 20. And we're back to a band that's featured heavily on this list. Nice. And the song is Answer the Sky by Between the Buried and Me. Off of their album Colors. And Colors is an album that, I'd say of like from the Colors stretch to Automata is the one that like maybe took me the longest to like really, really fall in love with.
Yeah.
But once it clicked, and I feel like this album kind of clicked for us at like a very similar time. I don't know. I felt like that. I felt like when I was really getting into it, you were also really into it. And there's like a time period where like whenever we'd go anywhere where there was a jukebox, we'd both just always be like, "Let's play Answer the Sky," or something off of Colors. For some reason,
that was on the jukebox at one of our bars.
Answer the Sky is just I'll explain it, but we always want to play it at like a college bar to upset people and because we like it. But it's a 13-minute song, and it's really just like in your face for a lot of it. Like Colors is supposed to be one big like song cycle essentially, and Answer the Sky is like kind of in the center of it. And if you don't know the context of it, it sounds very jarring to open into. Essentially, it just comes in with this like huge scream and then this like really really like technical like guitar like lead line or whatever. That's just insane, and then it just immediately goes into like this like these super harsh vocals, and it flows perfectly from the song that precedes it, but listening to its own, it's always very like jarring when you start it or whatever. And it has this like, it does that for like a minute or two before going to this like really like anthemic guitar part that like returns later in the song where it's like like that part, and then there's a lot of like really heavy sections. There's a lot of really cool like guitar work, and the drum work is really insane on the song. There's tons of cool solos like just spread throughout the song, and the song like eventually slows down and like kind of gives you like a breather from like the onslaught you just got for like 7 minutes, and it comes down to this like really cool like build up with like the drums are doing some really cool stuff, and then there's this like almost like, to me it's like kind of catchy, which is weird. I don't think it was catchy the first time I heard it, but now that I really like the band, it's like a part that like is catchy, the sleep on part or whatever, where it like switches between the harsh and the clean vocals. And then the song takes like another really like drastic turn into this like really like mellow part with these like really like jazzy, like this really like jazzy guitar solo that I think Paul Wagner plays, before like again slowing down even more and almost coming to like a complete halt. And then you start hearing like, the first time I ever heard it, I thought it was like the craziest thing ever. And it's one of my favorite BT band moments. It like slows down, you can hear this like this sample of these like these kind of like rednecks like just like chattering in a bar or whatever, and then all of a sudden they just like break into the like this like banjo like thing or whatever, like for like a minute, and it's like crazy, and like the banjo part like is like doing some musical reprises from like earlier parts of the album, which is really cool, and the banjo part like goes on and it's really cool, and then like it just like comes back to that like anthemic guitar line that was at the beginning of the song, and it's just a really really great song overall. It's like I would say it's like one of their most technical songs they have. It's just like crazy technical, really well written, and it's just like, I don't know, if you're trying to explain to someone what like BT Band is, how weird they are or whatever, I think that's like a really good starting point. Because
it's like long and harsh and not harsh, and
it's just so many genres, but and anytime that song ever comes on, like I like watching people's faces when the banjo part comes on. I feel like they're just like, what the fuck are we listening to right now? But it's an incredible song, and it made the top 20. All right, my number 19 is a band that's been featured once on this list.
Can I guess what it is?
You can guess what it is.
Is it Dream Theater?
It is Dream Theater.
Nice. Okay.
You want to try and guess the song while you're at it?
Is it Octavarium?
It is Octavarium. That was really good right there. I didn't give you anything. You just randomly guessed it. This is the second Dream Theater song on this list. And Dream Theater is one of my favorite bands of all time. Obviously, I feel like I've mentioned that before. We're actually going to see them in
April 22nd.
Week and a half or something like that. With both of our moms, which is
weird.
Will be fun. My mom is very into Dream Theater. I got her into Dream Theater. Your mom?
Her favorite band?
I don't know. It's one of her favorite bands. I know that. But but anyways, the song is Octavarium by Dream Theater, which is a 24-minute title track off their album of the same name. And it's definitely one of my favorite Dream Theater songs. And it's on an album that I think I don't like as much as a lot of people, but the title track itself is like incredible. And I don't know, it's a lot of varying opinions on it. I think it's like, some people think it's like their best album, which I definitely don't agree with at all, but I think it's in like the bottom of their discography actually. But the song is conceptually very cool and musically obviously very good. The song is like about like their place in progressive music.
That's weird.
And the whole album as a whole has a concept, not like lyrically or anything like that, but musically, every song is on a different octave or whatever.
That's cool.
And they all like progress throughout. There's 8 tracks on the album. And the starting note of the album is an F. An Octavarium ends on an F, and it's supposed to be like a loop. So if you play it, it'll just like bleed right into the first song again. But the whole album doesn't really like flow as well like that. But it does flow well from start of the album to end of the album.
Cool.
But yeah, so the song is like it starts off like very atmospheric with a very long, like very dreamlike Jordan Rudess keyboard thing. And before going into there's some cool orchestral stuff. There's a lot of flutes and strings and stuff, and a very like mellow acoustic guitar part with like some James LaBrie vocals. And then it slowly builds and adds like becomes like less mellow over time. And the first like 13 minutes of the song is supposed to like represent. They're actually like intentionally trying to like replicate like some of their like biggest influences, like Pink Floyd and Yes and stuff like that, to show like the prog that like came before them and the prog that influenced them. And then around the like 14-minute mark or so, there's like a metal riff like finally comes in, and that is supposed to like signify like, oh, this is where we came in to like prog or whatever. And then they do like, there's like that really long instrumental section where they just go nuts. It's very like Dream Theater like, and that's like again supposed to be like them or whatever, like our place in prog and like when we like came in and like, because they were like a big deal to prog metal or whatever. It's kind of, the song as a whole is kind of just reflecting on like we don't want to be exactly like our influences, but we can't ignore that there are influences, and we obviously love our influences, but and I think it's like kind of a thing like, oh, we're glad we did our own thing though, like while still having those influences essentially. And it's just an amazing song. Instrumentally it's like incredible. It has one of my favorite keyboard solos of all time, around like the 12-minute mark from Jordan Rudess. Just so good, super creative. It's really like jolly sounding. I love how jolly sounding it is. It's like 2 minutes long too. It's super long and just like mega technical. And then there's some really cool keyboard and guitar like back and forths in the middle of the song, like in the 17-18 minute range. And then it just has a like amazing ending, just a really emotional Petrucci guitar solo at the end of it that closes the song out. And overall, it's just like a very epic song, a very Dream Theater song, and it's one of my favorites of all time.
Great. So my next one, song number 20, is another long song. We've had two pretty long songs, and mine is one that is 15 minutes. Can you guess what band
Beardfish
might have a 15-minute song?
Beardfish.
Yeah, it is. Can you guess the song?
All right, since we're doing this now.
Yeah.
Note.
No, sorry. Yeah. I guess you're not as good as me at that. So the band is Beardfish, and the song is "And the Stone Said, If I Could Speak." So this is another Beardfish epic song, 15-minute Beardfish songs, of which their praises are... we speak their praises often, because they're really good. And so for a while, this was my favorite Beardfish song, but it's since been passed by at least, maybe like one song, anyways. And I actually don't have all that much to say about the song because I think it's going to be higher up for you. I think it's another one that could be like that. I'm not sure, but I know that was like your favorite Beardfish song for a while. But anyways, so this song is just an all-around excellent example of Ricard Sjoblom's like songwriting prowess and how good he is at that. It's a little less spastic and like kind of crazy than some of their earlier works. And me and Brandon and I actually talked earlier this week a little bit about how kind of Beardfish's earlier stuff, like The Sane Day, which is their first album, and both Sleeping in Traffics and Destined Solitaire. Those like albums were like really nuts, and like were really spastic and had lots of like really weird like WTF, like what the fuck moments. And this album definitely has like a little bit less of that. It's still there to some degree, but it's like kind of it's something to like marvel at a little bit that he was able to like change it and make it a little more serious of an album, while still maintaining the quality basically. So anyway, this is definitely like a little more of a serious song, which makes sense because it's literally important and meaningful lyrically. It's like some pretty serious like subject matter. The song, to me anyways, is I've never like heard it said exactly, so I'm just going off my own interpretation, but it's kind of like about like stones like at like rocks and stuff, like viewing humanity through their lens as like immovable, permanent like objects that are just like seeing us kind of struggle and fail and do things for pointless reasons. Basically, the song has a very like atheist and sort of nihilistic vibe. Because it's
definitely how I read it too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it's very much like the end of the song is basically them saying like there's no like power to punish your mistakes.
Yeah.
All your actions are done out of your own free will. Which me and Brandon both very much agree with that statement. Yeah. And it's kind of like sort of like an anthem for that viewpoint, honestly, in a lot of ways. Anyways, so what's the music like? The album, the song has some great examples of some saxophone playing, which is a little bit of a surprise as well, but it's a really, really good saxophone playing on this song. Ricard's songs don't always have a saxophone in them, but this is an excellent saxophone throughout. It's really prominently featured.
This is like the saxophone album for that.
It is, honestly. Yeah, for sure. Like in the intro, the first song. Was it with Akabu or whatever?
The instrumental song.
Yeah.
Akabatu. I can't pronounce it. I
can't pronounce it either. Akabu, something like that.
That song is like literally just like saxophone, like lead.
City, saxophone city. So it also features some really cool bass work. That's like a highlight for me, and really, really good production.
It's some of my favorite bass work on any song ever.
Yeah, so it's very fuzzy. Beardfish has a way where they produce the bass in a really cool way, where it's like sort of like a big hug. It's like very fuzzy, a little bit fuzzy, and but at the same time
clear,
and it's very comforting in a way.
Some of my favorite bass production of any band ever is
Beardfish. Which is crazy because they're so obscure and of a band. But anyways, and also there's a lot of good guitar work on this one, and Ricard has as always, some amazing keyboard work that is just really awesome. Highlighting how me and Brandon have already talked about this probably several times in this series about how he picks really cool keyboard noises and sounds, and he does that in this song too. And it has a sort of this song has a main guitar riff that's sort of it gets repeated on other instruments too, but it's sort of is repeated many times throughout the song, which is again a little bit different from some of their other longer epics, which are more linear. This one's still linear in a lot of ways, but it does often return to that one guitar riff that's it's almost jazzy in a way. It's really cool, and so it's just a really good song. It's one of my favorite Beardfish songs, and one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite Beardfish songs, and one of my favorite songs of all time. All right. My next one is by a band, or maybe you could refer to him as a man instead of a band. And this is the highest up that this man of greatness gets. But the song might be one that surprises you. Because it's a relatively short song compared to the other songs on here. In fact, I think it's the shortest one left, easily. And the song is "Drive Home"
this is
by the man Steven Wilson.
I didn't know this was your favorite Steven Wilson song.
Yeah, and I was a little bit surprised. Actually, even wrote that. I'm a little bit surprised about how high up this one made it. But I was making the list. I was basically just saying but I like it better than this song a little bit, and it's got up there. It's kind of like splitting hairs for some of them, the micro placements, whatever. But it did end up very high. It's a very good song. Song has a lot of really good things going for it. First of all, it's produced amazingly. Steven Wilson is a guy who is really good at producing songs and albums, and that's not a secret. And I think this is one of one of the best produced songs ever. Obviously all the songs in the album are produced just as well, but I think the quieter tone of this song and sort of the allows for the dynamics of the recording to really shine through, and you can really hear everything super, super well. It's super clear. It's not too compressed or anything. It's not too loud or too quiet. It's just really, really good. And you can hear again all the instruments and all the subtleties, and I'll get to the guitar tone and stuff, but that is really good. So it has that going for it. It has also a really good introduction with them kind of singing, Steven Wilson kind of singing in sort of a quiet voice, and some kind of subtle guitar work, and some with a lot of acoustic strumming, and some subtle piano work, and some subtle kind of backing vocal type things, and just some subtle bass work too. Just very subtle. It was very pretty first half, and it's really cool. Kind of showcases some of the the quieter side of the album, because a lot of the album is very bombastic and technical and stuff, but it's kind of a quieter first part. Anyways, so that would all be like really good. It would be like a really good song if it was just that. But let's be honest here. This song should be renamed the Guitar Solo the Song, or Guthrie Govan the Song, because Guthrie Govan is the guitarist that Steven Wilson has on this album, and it's about halfway through the song, honestly 3 minutes is when it starts building up to this solo.
Like 5:20 or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's like a 2-minute solo basically, and it basically goes till almost the end of the song. They do come back to the intro part, but a little louder at the end. But anyway, so it leads up to this guitar solo. It builds up to it in a really cool way. It just kind of again, the whole intro part is very soft and stuff, and it kind of builds up a little bit, but then it quiets down, almost it's built it was a drum roll, and then there's a little bit of silence for this great thing coming in.
Yeah, there's that part where the acoustic part comes in, it's dun, 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 and then there's the bass line or whatever.
Yeah.
It's dun, 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 and then
then it happens. Yeah. And it's a guitar solo that happens, and I think me and Brandon, it's probably my favorite guitar solo of all time, and I think it's
it's also mine.
I think it's almost the best guitar. It's one of the best guitar solos of all time. It's just for me, it's my favorite one, and it's just so good. Comes in, it's 2 minutes long. It also starts off slowly, so it builds up to it really slowly, and then the guitar solo itself is a slow it starts off slowly and with lots of screeching and sort of EBO type playing, where it's lots of feedback is the word I'm looking for. So it has lots of feedback, and then it kind of gradually builds in speed and intensity as it kind of climaxes, and then it basically gets crazier and crazier, and then eventually has this that we were talking about last night, the arpeggio part, where he's just Guthrie Govan is just going these crazy technical, crazy fast arpeggios, and then it kind of ends sort of somewhat abruptly, actually, the solo, and it goes back into the original and builds back into the original sort of intro part. So it's really, really cool. Great song. Absolutely love the song. Guthrie Govan is amazing. Apparently recorded it in one take, which is really impressive. And also, it makes me really sad that Guthrie Govan left the band, because he's this really good solo. He also has some really, really good solos. He also has some fantastic solos on Haken on a Race, yeah. And really good song, really good album.
All right. So my next one is number 18. This band has been featured once in the list, and the last time I said this, Eric guessed. So would you like to guess again at what this is?
Is it now Rush?
No.
Oh, damn it.
Okay, yeah, you struck gold once.
Yeah.
The next song is by Haken.
Nice.
And the song is Falling Back to Earth off the album The Mountain.
Nice.
And the song, in a lot of ways, is the centerpiece of that album. It's the epic on this album.
Yeah.
It's just under 12 minutes, I think. I think it's 11:50 or
short
something.
For Haken.
Yeah, short epic. But it's such a good song. It's so amazing. This is I would describe this as the song that me and Eric like to sing along to together the most.
Yeah.
Especially when we're at a show and they play this live.
Seriously,
it's a magical moment.
I was wailing out.
Yeah. But the song's really cool. It opens with these pretty heavy guitar riffs or whatever, and some cool keyboard stuff. Before going to a more quieter vocal passage, with some cool very jazzy parts going on there. And the whole song has a lot of really cool jazzy parts. There's a lot of really weird and wonky guitar work going on, and there's some really, really cool set of solos around the 3-minute mark that are uber technical and just so good. And there's this really cool vocal part that me and Eric both like a lot.
Yeah.
Right after that part that we always just belt out loud a lot whenever we go see them, or just anytime honestly when we listen to this song. But the best part of the song for me is it has a very it's got one of my favorite choruses that Haken's ever written. It's got a very anthemic chorus, which Haken does this a lot. And there's this really cool, really atmospheric part in the middle that is probably my favorite part of the song. That has some really cool lyrics and really cool delivery from Ross Jennings, as well as some really cool instrumentals backing it, before returning to like the chorus of the song at the end. And there's some really like cool, like very epic sounding like synths that lead into that like final chorus. And it's just like a tremendous song off one of my favorite albums of all time. And that's why it's here. All right, my number 17 is it's a 15-minute song. 15-minute songs, they're quite good. It's not by Beardfish.
Not by
Beardfish. Not by Beardfish.
Yeah.
We have a thing for 15-minute songs.
Yeah.
They just work a lot of the time for some reason. And this song is by an Australian group, and I think you know what it is already.
Nice.
It's Caligula's Horse is the band, and the song is Graves.
Wow.
You were questioning the other day if this song was going to be in the top 20.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
And how much I like it or not. And I think I've answered your question that I like it a whole lot. The song is the closing track on their 2017 release, In Contact. And it's quite a song. All the members of Caligula's Horse they're very, very skilled at their instruments, especially Sam Valen, their guitarist,
Mr. Guitarist.
Yeah, he's so good, and the tone he uses it's beautiful, it's gorgeous. It's so good. And the song kind of has this guitar lead that he plays that like pops back into the song like every like 2 or 3 minutes. And it just works so well. It opens with this like little guitar lead he plays, and it like keeps coming back, and it just works really well. Like it makes the song feel really like, I don't know, it has like a continuity about it. And this song, like this album has a cool concept that's kind of hard to explain, so I'm probably not going to get into that. It's about like different types of like artists and like struggles that they have or whatever. Like you always say, it's very like Shakespearean how they talk about it, and also like the concept itself kind of seems like it's set in like in the distant past almost. This song is just like tremendous. Jim Gray, the vocalist, is a really, really talented vocalist, and there's some tremendous lyrics in this song. And the song like has a lot of really cool sections. There's like a cool like acapella type section in the middle, which is one of my favorite sections of the song. There's a lot of really like heavy, like genty like type sections that are really cool. And there's like 3 or 4 like just like face melting guitar solos in this thing. But like the best part of the song is that like it all comes together. It's like in around the 12 or 13 minute mark to like I think my favorite outro of all time. It's just like incredible, and they bring in like the saxophone like kind of randomly. And it's just like, there's this like riff they're playing with like the saxophone melody that's going on, and it's like a 2-minute outro. It's really long, and it's just so good. It's just so emotional, and it's just like the perfect ending to the song. And the album as a whole is incredible. It's one of my favorite albums of all time, and this is one of my favorite songs of all time.
All right, so my number 18 is the one that we are about to be discussing in a second. And that one is one that might give you a little surprise, but maybe not. I don't know. And the song is called Microdeath, Softstar by Phideaux, the band, which I always call them Phideaux, even though I know it's actually Phideaux. I sometimes interchange the two.
They used to call him Phideaux, and then I found out.
You heard it was Phideaux.
And I've changed my ways.
But Phideaux sounds more fancy. So this song is the song that is at the end of Doomsday Afternoon, and it's easily confused with Microsoft Death Star, which is the song that begins the album. A little bit of a confusing naming. But anyways, so this is a closer to the album, and it's a song that is amazing in and of itself, but it's one that is like very much bolstered by the rest of the album before it. But it's still on here anyways, as a standalone song. And the song itself is like what I would call like eclectic progressive rock. I guess like if you can't classify it in another way, I pretty much just say it's eclectic progressive rock. But it is like very eclectic. And this song in particular has so many like treats. I'd say it's like a very treat-heavy song. It's almost like fan service. Yeah. Like it's like there's so much cool stuff going on. There's like good male vocals. I think his like spoiler alert, I think his like vocals improved on later albums or whatever. But I still like his vocals on this one. Mm-hmm. But there's really good female vocals. There's often some like gang style like chants kind of things going on. Some like harmonies going on, which are really cool. Especially the end of the song is really really climactic, like sort of. Part like that, and there's like lots of cool piano stuff going on, lots of cool piano melodies, there's like a shreddy guitar solo even. There are multiple violin solos. There's actually one part of the song where there's sort of like a bluegrassy like violin solo, which is kind of weird and like almost out of place. That's like playing the same like melody that has been like is kind of carried on throughout the song. But I'll get to the reprises in a minute. And it does that, and then there's like a break for like a minute from the solo where it's just like more like vocal stuff going on and like a normal like full band stuff. And then there's like another violin solo, but this time it's like classical type stuff, like a sort of a classical type stuff. And then there's like a guitar solo after that, and they're all like, and it's really really cool. They have all sorts of stuff like that, and they're all probably one of the best things about this song and or album, and also this whole project. It's actually part of a 3-album project by the band. They're all part of like the same story arc, and probably one of the best things that they do, and I think one of the things they do as good as almost any other band besides besides the Deer Hunter, are the musical reprises. And they do it. Their approach is a little bit different than the Deer Hunters, though. I feel like the Deer Hunters kind of like brings them in as like almost like an Easter egg. Sometimes when you're first listening to it, it's like the first time you're listening to a Deer Hunter album, and you're like, oh, this is like from that song. Yeah. But then like it builds on you over time. And you're like, oh, that's the best part of the song is when they go back and like reference that.
And there's like a lot of like Deer Hunters there's so many of them.
Yeah.
Deer Hunters discography, and a lot of them are like really really subtle, and you have to really like listening. Like there's a lot of like really quiet like stuff going on in the background that's reprising, and I feel like this isn't like quite.
It's not as subtle, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's definitely more like in your face. They have like certain melodies and like things and lyrics that they reprise, sometimes in different ways. Sometimes they switch them up throughout the whole 3-album thing, and it's really cool. And like when you first hear some of those melodies, you're like, oh, it's cool. But like as they keep bringing them back over and over again, it's like really awesome. It's like those melodies kind of snowball and like become like.
I feel like the lyrical reprises are always like the how they're like delivered vocally is always like different.
Always different, yeah, exactly. So anyways, this song is a very powerful song, and it's really like it's also really intricate, and there's lots of complexities that keep me kind of like discovering new like things whenever I listen to it that are going on in the background. So it's a really good song overall, and that's why it's on this list. It's one of my favorite songs, obviously. Cool stuff. All right, so my next one is by a band that has been featured today, and it's not a 15-minute song by them. Surprising. The band is Beardfish, and the song, you might be able to guess that
Love Story.
No. I think Love Story was already on here, maybe.
Did you? Yeah, it might have been on your list. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not a 15-minute song?
Not a 15-minute song.
You're saying it's not a 15-minute song? Mm-hmm. It's Destined Solitaire.
Yeah, it's Destined Solitaire. So Destined Solitaire is a song that is the most, in a lot of ways, of things in their discography. I think it's like the most technical song in their discography, because there's lots of like shreddy stuff going on. It's really fast all the way through. Lots of like really quick like arpeggio type things going on. Like there's not too many like crazy guitar solos or anything, but just like lots of fast like bass work and fast guitar work. And I think it's also maybe this is a big maybe, but I think it's also probably their most heavy song. It's like one of their most like metal type songs. And in fact, if you like listen to the first half of the song or the first couple minutes of the song without any other context, you'd probably say that Beardfish is like a metal band, because like the opening riffs that start the album are like very chuggy, and like there are some harsh vocals in the song.
It's one of 2 songs in their entire discography. I think 2.
Oh, it's harsh vocals, yeah.
That is harsh vocals, yeah.
The other one is Voluntary Slavery, which was my first Beardfish song. Anyways, so it's a really interesting song on the album Destined Solitaire, named, same album. So that the song is, like I mentioned before when I was talking about And the Stones Dead, If I Could Speak. This album is like definitely more spastic and like wacky and all over the place. And this like, and it's not a negative comment, but this song is like definitely like that. It sort of starts off with like a crazy guitar riff that's very metally, very chuggy, and like fast. And there's a lot of it starts off with vocals. It's like Brandon actually talked about this song, was on his list, but it's sort of lyrics about like being a lone wolf and like being like versus like being in a relationship, and like how, and just generally about relationships and like people in relationships, and some good lyrics. So So it is about that for a while, and there are some harsh vocals with some like screaming noises in the background. And then there's like a really long like jam section. And actually, like, I always knew there was like a cool jam section there, but I was actually listening to it today, and I like realized like how long that sort of like not like jam part is.
Oh, it's really long.
It's really long. It's like most of the song almost, and it's really really cool. That's the part that has like some of the most technical like stuff in their discography, I think. And it switches back and forth a lot of times between sort of like heavier riffing and like quieter, less heavy riffing. And then at the end, it kind of like goes back to the vocals again, and it's just a really good song. It's a really complete song, and it's just an example of like really tight, like good songwriting. That is really good. So like that one, and it's one where a guitar shows off his, it's one where Ricard Schoblum shows off his like guitar prowess a little bit, as opposed to his keyboard.
All right. This is number 16 by a band we very recently talked about. I recently talked about. Nice. And the band is Haken again.
Nice.
And the song is The Architect off their album Affinity.
Yeah.
And it used to be that Falling Back to Earth is a song I liked more than The Architect.
Nice.
But you know, I don't know. After I saw them last time, I listened to Affinity a lot. And The Architect had gained a slight lead on it. Yeah. And then preparing for this, they kind of had a head-to-head battle, you know?
Yeah.
And The Architect beat it out, just very slightly, but I prefer The Architect very slightly. And this is, again, another Haken epic, and it's another, like, one of their epics that's, like, in the middle, which is a thing they've been doing on the last 3 albums, I feel like. Like, their first 2 albums, the big epic has been the final song. Yeah. And then the last 3 albums has been, like, right, like, dead in the center. I don't know why it works. It always works really well on their albums, like that.
Whatever it is,
and the song is just so amazing, and it's particularly good live. But it's really amazing studio as well, obviously. But it's such a good song. It opens up with this like I don't know. It's a keyboard thing going on that's really like eerie sounding, kind of. I don't know how to describe it. There's some like electronic drum stuff going on in the background a little bit, and. It comes in with this like almost like a dubstepy keyboard thing or whatever that they do to open it before coming into this like really really awesome riff. And some of the riffs in the song are like some of my favorite riffs of all time. Actually, especially the one that like opens the song, that one or whatever. It's so good. And like for the first like 2 or 3 minutes, like the whole band is just kind of going like bonkers. Honestly, they're just like every band member is just like absolutely going nuts on their respective instrument. And there's that really cool like keyboardy piano part that like breaks, that like they go to really quickly, and it like becomes really quiet besides that before they come back to that like heavy riff again. And then it like kind of slows down and comes in this like very 80s sounding keyboard sound, which Affinity has a lot of, cause
80s
like 80s influence. That's really cool. And then this really cool like verse chorus structure. It has again like one of my favorite Haken choruses ever. It's just so like anthemic. And then it kind of like again goes to like a more atmospheric section that's even like much more atmospheric than Falling Back to Earth section, I would say. It's very different as well. It's very like electronic-y sounding, even though it's not. It's all like real instrumentation. And there's really cool like bass work going on in that section. Connor Green is doing some really cool stuff. Some really cool vocals from Ross, as well as some really cool like MIDI type drum stuff from their drummer Ray. Before coming into this like really awesome keyboard solo, which is like so amazing. Before it comes into this keyboard solo and then jumps into a guitar solo that's playing like a similar melody that's very cool. And then Einar Solberg from Leprous does some guest harsh vocals, and they're like perfectly placed and so incredible. Before going into like again another like instrumental section with some like super heavy moments, and finally like after that section like ceases, they like just mold back into the final chorus, and then like one of my favorite moments of the song is like the outro guitar solo that leads back into a reprise of the second song on the album, Initiate, or whatever, and yeah, it's just a perfect reprise and just like works like so well. It's another 15-minute song. It's just like incredible, and yeah, it's one of my favorite songs of all time. Okay, this one might surprise you. that it's like this high.
I'm gearing up for some surprise.
It's pretty high. Maybe it won't. I don't know.
Yeah.
But because I do talk about how much I like this song often, but I think it might surprise you that it's above some of the songs that have already been mentioned.
Yeah.
And, like in this session, especially like The Architect, Falling Back to Earth, like those like.
I'm just gonna say I was surprised Architect was this low down.
This low down, yeah. Like some of like the mainstay Haken tracks, you might be surprised that I like this song a little more.
Yeah.
And the song is The Lamplighter. Parts 1 through 8,
am really surprised.
Gandalf's Fist, and I think this is might be the surprise of like the entire thing.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I don't think I always tell you how much I like the song, but maybe I don't express just how much I like this song.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've talked about this a little bit on this podcast.
Yeah, you had it as one of the
because I wrecked it.
songs.
Yeah, I gave it a song wreck. And it's just such a perfect progressive rock song in so many ways. It's part of a concept album too, and it's like just fits perfectly with the concept. Again, I'll go through like the many things I like about it. The piano work and keyboard work is like amazing. It opens up with this like piano melody that is like reprised throughout the whole entire album multiple times. And it's just it's a really beautiful piano melody, and the production is really, really good on the whole thing. And like the vocalist, I believe it's Dean Marsh who does the male vocals on the song, and he's like him and I think his name is Andy Severed, or the two guys that started this band. And it's kind of funny because when they first started this band, it was just the two of them, like kind of doing things. And as they've like grown over time, they just have, it's been like the two of them, like, and now they have like a drummer who's like a mainstay and like a bassist and everything. And they have like so many guest musicians now, but it's kind of like, I don't know, they started the band in 2010. That was when their first album released. And like 6 years, this album came out in 16. They like just have this like big ensemble on like every album now, which is really cool that they've been able to like make it, turn it into that. And I think they just like always have gotten better throughout their discography. But anyways, and there's some like really like, again, like eerie vocals. I wouldn't say he's technically a good singer, but like it fits the song really well. The vocals used on the song fit the song really well. There's this cool like lingering like reverb effect that he has on his vocals too. Yeah, so those vocals come in, and then these very, very gorgeous, the female vocals I would say are technically very good.
Yeah.
Just gorgeous female vocals that she does the chorus, and he also does the second half of the chorus, which is always really powerful to me. And there's a lot of sections in the song, like around the 5 or 6 minute mark, where it breaks into like really long instrumental passages, and there's like pan flutes. I think they're pan flutes, or they're normal flutes, but I'm pretty sure they're pan flutes. And there's a lot of like orchestrations, there's a lot of strings and stuff. Some really like cool proggy like guitar riffs. They sound like very like classic proggy like guitar riffs.
Yeah.
Really cool keyboard stuff as well. And it all builds up to this like amazing guitar solo. And Gandalf's Fist is not a band that like I think shows off their like super technical chops on the guitar that often, but when they do it, they're just like the Dean Marsh, I believe, is the guy who does he's the guy that does this solo, I believe, and does most of the solos. But the dude can like really shred actually. He just doesn't like show it off that often. But this solo is like it's one of my favorite guitar solos of all time, and it's just like incredible. It's kind of like a guitar solo that's weird. It's like split into like 2 parts. The first part is just like there's this really like just super shreddy section that I like love so much, and then like in between the solo, like some really soft female vocals come in to sing like something for like 30 seconds, and then the guitar solo like it kind of like picks up where it left off, like right back. It's like if you took that out, it would like work together perfectly. But I don't know, it works really well together, and it's just a beautiful song. And I thought it would surprise Eric, and it did. And it's number 15, and yeah.
Nice. Okay. So my number 16 is a song by a band that we have talked about tonight. Yeah. And the song is called From Hydrogen to Love by the band Phideaux. Phideaux. I did it. There I did it. I said Phideaux. Anyways, so this, first of all, I want to talk about how cool the song title is for this song. It's like one of my favorite song titles ever. Because From Hydrogen to Love, it basically just is, it basically says like from the most simple thing in the universe that like they started off the universe with like tons of hydrogen and everything was just hydrogen to something that's like one of the most complex things that we know about, that everyone experiences. You know, just like being in love with someone is like 2 people with a lot of atoms that are way more complex than hydrogen, that have this like weird indescribable connection that's like unbreakable and like amazing. So it's just like from the beginning of the universe and the simplest thing to like present day and the most complex thing, and something that's like completely heartless and cold and uncaring and just like there, like hydrogen, to something that's like the most like beautiful, amazing thing that we like know about. And the song, I know it's like a continuation of the same story that was in Doomsday Afternoon on this album, and the album is Infernal, which just came out last year, a masterpiece. Brandon's already talked about the song actually too. But anyways, so it is about that story, and the song itself goes through like many emotional like highs and lows. And for me, it's like probably one of the most emotional songs. And like in the high moments, I am like reminded of all that, and like it's like it's weird when I'm listening to this song. It's like sometimes like the most positive feelings I have towards like humanity and like life are like when I'm listening to the high moments of this song. Like basically when they have like this one part that's sort of like 7 minutes into the song where they like do this like humming thing, and then they're like, and then after that for a while there's like a sort of a harsh vocal section, which is really weird, but cool. But then they like do this cool, that's really sing-songy harmonized thing.
Which like the force that
gave us everything from hydrogen to love. For some reason that's like one of the most uplifting like parts of any song ever for me.
Yeah.
And it's like I can't even describe it. And this is a song that also came out last year, so it like easily could be higher like with time. But anyways, so this song, so it's just like absolutely amazing, and it has that incredible high moment where that's happening, where we're just talking about the harmonization, and it's weird too because it's not perfectly harmonized either, and that's like totally on purpose. Like you can definitely distinctly make out like their individual voices like lagging a little bit in places and like doing some different things. He has this one part where he has this like he's like doing the melody but like in a lazy way. He's just like Anyways, it's really cool. But then like the end of the song is really like crushingly sad, like Brennan talked about.
Oh, it's so sad.
And so it's just like one of the most dynamically like emotional songs that I know about. Like it's just it's one of the happiest parts of any song. It's like one of the most like depressing, horrible.
You're talking about like the outro.
The final couple minutes, where he's just like like you said, like pleading.
It's almost like pleading, like please, can things be better?
Yeah, exactly. Which to me, it almost like it's like fits into the plot. It's like where it's like, oh, like, you know, we've gotten so far, like we've done so much, whatever. Like there's so much good stuff in the world. Like why do these like tiny annoying things have to like ruin everything? And that like is a problem that I like think about a lot, because like there's so much going for like us, and there's so much that should be amazing, like friendship and like love and all that stuff, and then there's like just these little things like people's greed and like stuff like that just kind of like ruins it for what could be perfect, you know. Yes, and as someone who's like a scientist too, it's like, oh, there's like so much that we could do. We could in time we could overcome like almost any obstacle if we actually didn't have these like horrible, shitty things holding everyone back. So it's just like that kind of despair. Anyways, so yeah, one of my favorite songs of all time. Probably if we did this in a year, it might be like way higher. So yeah. The next one is the highest song up by a band that I currently can't shut up about. Like I just don't stop talking about them.
I wonder who it is.
In fact, me and Brandon and I went to a bar last night and we were hanging out with some of our friends. And I don't drink that much. I had like 3 beers or something, but I was like a little drunk, and I wouldn't shut up about this band to them. They didn't care. Like they don't know what the band is at all. They don't even know what that means. The phrase. Anyways, the band is Jack of the Clock. And I'll tell you that if I made this in a year, they would have more songs on here for sure. But they anyway. So this song is "Fighting the Doughboy." I don't know if that surprises you that it's the highest up one, or that it's that high.
That is also my favorite Jack of the Clock song.
Yeah, it is definitely my favorite Jack of the Clock song. So "Fighting the Doughboy" is a song off their album "Repetitions of the Old City 1." We had a debate for a long time whether it was "Repetitions of the Old City I" or anyways.
I used to think it was I.
I did too, yeah, and it sounds cool to say, like "Repetitions of the Old City I." Anyways, so this song is in classic Jack of the Clock fashion. It tells a story, and it's like a very character-based story. That's told like in second person, which is really weird. And actually, it's almost like double second person, because the song is basically Damon Waitkis telling you about a fight that you the listener are going to do with a guy called the Doughboy, who's like a boxer basically. So you're a boxer in this, and he's like a boxer as well, who has like somewhat of a reputation for just like being hard to fight, and for being like really sketchy and like kind of very like trashy. but having like sort of a trashy past. And really, the song is about him and like your interactions with him, but mostly about him and like about the fight and like him as a character. And so like you learn that like he's more than just like a gruff, like annoying, like, you know, boxer guy. He has like a family, like his parents are dead, but he was always disappointing to them, and like he's upset about that basically. And like, so there's kind of a conflict. So before the fight happens, he like grabs your collar and makes his plea, and he says that he's just gonna, you know, obviously neither of you want to suffer and get hurt, so he's just gonna like punch you lightly, and you're gonna fall over, and he's gonna get all the credit. But then when it's over, he's gonna give you the prize, and you're gonna get the medal and everything. So you, the character, turn that down and fight him, and you like just beat the shit out of him, basically. Like you just literally beat the living shit out of him. And like he like right before he's done getting shit beat out of him, before you knock him out, he like grabs he doesn't grab your collar this time, but he like says, you know, some words about like, take all this stuff, you know, take my gold and my blood and my pain, and you know, take like my belt or whatever, because I can't use it anymore, and like it never really did all that much for me anymore. Anyways, basically, so congrats. Like, are you happy? Like, are you satisfied? You won the fight. So it's a really interesting story, and musically, it does a thing that Jack of the Clock does a lot, where it kind of like, so a lot of times, you know, bands will have a story and they'll have music that very much complements the story, and they do that a lot as well, but they also do a thing where the music is very like contradictory to what's going on in the story, like on purpose. But they have another song called Into the Fireplace, where the song it's about like self-immolation. It's about a guy who literally climbs into a fireplace and like gets set on fire and like crumbles, but the song is like very happy, like a lot of the music. And like Damon Wayans has gone on record to say like, that's like very much on purpose. Like he liked the idea of like having like a sick, horrible tale with like just like almost like very happy instrumentation. Anyway, so this song does that in places. Like when he is like grabbing your collar and making his plea, there's this like really, really interesting and cool and fast like sort of acoustic section where Damon's singing in like a very happy way. And he has some of my favorite lyrics ever actually in this, when it is like, do you ever feel like you're a body, just some pulses, nothing more, and even memories hunkered down in there somewhere. You see the sick become their sickness and start talking to their pain. And anyways, that's like and you end up screaming like a siren in the end or whatever, which is really, really cool lyrics to me. It's like beautiful song. Damon Wayans studied creative writing, and that shows because he always writes really cool lyrics. Anyways, so really good song, and but the best part of the song, which I haven't even gotten to the best part of the song, so the part with the cool acoustic stuff is awesome, but then the outro, which is like, there's another song after that on the album, but in a way it's like, it's for me like an outro for the album, in a way.
Like an epilogue almost. Like.
Yeah, exactly. The last song almost like could be a bonus track. It's still really good, but it's like sort of like the emotional climax of the album, and like generally the climax of the album, where it basically all the instruments kind of come in, and there's like some vocals in the background. It's very like kind of sad, but also like it almost is like, you know, so it's almost like you're studying all these people in a city throughout the whole album, and like each thing is like a different like person in the city, even though it's not actually what it is. But like that last 2 minutes of fighting the doughboy is almost like zooming out at the end, like if it was a movie, like zooming out at the end, like of the whole city and like seeing what's going on in the whole city. Anyways, really cool song.
All right, number 14, and this is you know, a band that reaches its peak here. You know,
nice.
Their journey's over, and the band is Dream Theater again. It's not Journey. Okay. The band is Dream Theater again, and the song is 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence.
Nice.
Which is Dream Theater's longest song in their discography. It is 42 minutes long. It's quite a long song, and I remember when Dream Theater was one of the first prog bands I got into. They were the third prog band I got into, and I remember I listened to a lot of long songs up to that point, but I never listened to a song that long before. And I was really excited because not only is it a 42-minute song, but it's a 42-minute closing track on an album that is like 98 minutes long.
Yeah.
And it has 5 songs before that, and the shortest song and the 5 songs before that is a 6-minute song, and the other songs are like clocking at like 13 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes and then like almost 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's an amazing album. I love the album so much. But 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence is definitely my favorite song in the album, and my favorite Dream Theater song. And it's kind of has a cool like writing process as well. Jordan Rudess, their keyboardist, wrote like the overture for the song and like didn't think much about it. He showed it to me wherever he's like, oh, I think I have some cool ideas here. And apparently like the band just kind of started like jamming like after that, like with that as like a bass, and started like writing some music, and then they started writing some lyrics, and they realized they had like a theme of like mental health or whatever, like mental, like things that can go like mental conditions basically, and it turned into like a concept about basically 6 degrees of inner turbulence. So it's 6 different like things you can suffer from mentally, and the things are it's bipolar. And the cool thing about the bipolar one they do is they have the song About to Crash, or the section About to Crash is about like the what is it, it's like manic and the depressive and manic or whatever. That one is manic, and then there's a section called About to Crash Reprise later on, which is the like the depressive side of it. And both those songs really like encapsulate both those like feelings very well. Like how it would feel like, I guess. And then the other ones are like war, PTSD, postpartum depression, autism is one of the songs, and then like dementia, like Alzheimer's is the other. So it's all like a really cool like concept or whatever, about like a subject that isn't particularly easy to talk about, I guess. But like the music is amazing as well. The overture is like this like big bombastic like orchestral type thing. Obviously the band members are playing as well, but it's very orchestral. It's very like cheery sounding almost too, which is kind of weird. There's a lot of like moments that like sound kind of happy, and then it like leads into like the second part, which is About to Crash, with this like beautiful piano melody, and some really good riffs from Mr. John Petrucci, and a beautiful solo in that song. And then the War Inside My Head and Test Something All, like the next part, and they're kind of like just like insane like Dream Theater stuff going on, very like all over the place like musically. Very cool stuff though. And then Goodbye Kiss is like a more like mellow song, and it has an amazing guitar solo at the end of it that's very emotional. And then Solitary Shell has like more like acoustic instrumentation, probably the catchiest like part of the entire song. And then About to Crash Reprise has an awesome riff that opens up, just obviously like amazing instrumentation across the board. And then Losing Time, which is like the final closing thing, it's just a really like fitting ending. Putting like the Alzheimer's one last, I think, is a really fitting ending, because it kind of makes sense from like an age stamp that happens when you get like older or whatever. It's just a really like heartbreaking song, and a heartbreaking like end to the album and the song as a whole. But it's an incredible song. It's definitely worth your 42 minutes, I would say. It's a song that you need to listen to a lot to like get it, I think, or click or whatever. But it's an amazing song, and that's why it's number 14. My next one is number 13, which is another Beardfish song, featured very heavily. And that song is Until You Comply, Entropy, which is a song that comes after Dust in Solitaire on that album. Exactly after it. It's one of my favorite like 1-2 punches in any band's discography ever, just because both of them are like in my two, like Dust in Solitaire was 21 and this is 13. So the song is really wacky. This is like one of the wackiest songs they've ever done, I think. For sure. It just like displays like just the weirdest sides of Beardfish. It opens up with like a really weird keyboard like thing or whatever, before like going into some really like just weird lyrics. Like it's always like we've talked about what we think the song is about, and we could just be really wrong. But I always think I'm kind of right. Like, but I don't know. It's really wacky lyrics. And there's a bunch of like cool sections going on. This song has a lot of cool keyboard stuff. And there's this like part around like 4 minutes where like Ricard just starts like singing, and he's like, I can't help wondering, thinking, what's Bob Dylan doing now? Is he at home
eating a big bowl of cornflakes?
Just like I will later on. Which is one of like my favorite lyrics ever. It's just so wacky, and like the character in the thing is like obviously like a little like going a little like loosen it a little bit almost is what I always picture. But like it's such a great lyric. And then like the song like kind of like comes to like this chorus that is like more serious, I feel like, and like kind of like tying everything together. And it goes to that before going into some really, really weird sections. There's like a bunch of like another weird lyricist, where he's like Q to the urinal or
yeah,
whatever. It's really weird.
Life is a long queue.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of cool like piano-y stuff and keyboardy stuff. And there's another like weird part before like it comes back, it reprises like the chorus again, like before the song ends, where like it's like that chanting where it's like da 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 or whatever, and that weird like almost like it's almost like yeah, very circusy. Yeah, what's the word I'm looking for here? I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but it's very weird. And then it reprises like the chorus's melody on like piano, like a very like classical sounding piano.
Yeah.
And then it like closes out the song with the chorus again. And it's just such an amazing song, and it's just like the weirdest side, the weird side of prog I really like a whole lot. And a lot of prog is like really weird, and the creativity is just like it's oozing out of this song. I feel like it's just incredible.
Very cool. All right, so my number 14 is by a band that some would consider potentially my favorite band, probably. And that band is Opeth, and the song might surprise you a little bit that it's this high, but I don't think it'll surprise you that it's on there. And that is Demon of the Fall, which means I was lying earlier when I said Drive Home was the shortest song left, because this is definitely the shortest song left. And one of the shortest songs in the whole thing. I think it's not that long. Anyways, so this song is from the album My Arms Your Hearse. And My Arms Your Hearse is an album, even though it's had 2 songs featured on this list so far, is an album that for me is very much an album. And like one of my favorite like concept albums ever, just in terms of like the emotions of it. And this song comes at like a very key point in that story. And the story is basically like about it sounds kind of cheesy when you say it, but anyways, it's like about like a man who's like in his wife, and he like dies, and he like sort of comes back as like a ghost or whatever. But he sort of like is looking at his wife and like finding out that she's like kind of moving on from him basically, and like is like getting with other dudes and stuff and like moving on with her life, and he's like not stoked about it, or at least that's my understanding of it. So I think this song is sort of like him like coming to that realization, and like it's very there's a lot of despair going on. So it starts off with like a really weird almost like it's probably a guitar effect, but it's like really heavy and like blurry and distorted sounding, which kind of sums up My Arms Your Hearse as an album. Anyways, it starts off with like this really weird thing before going into like a really fast sort of just like death metal riff. And it like does that for a while, and Michael Ockerfeld is just like hollering his lungs out, and it's really good. This is like I kind of said this about Still Life, but this album definitely saw a huge jump in his abilities as a harsh vocalist from the first 2 albums. I still think he got better after this album, but he does a really good job in the song. And he's basically talking about that, and then it goes into like a sort of soft, like strummed sort of interlude, which is kind of different from a lot of their sort of like acoustic interludes that they do, because a lot of the more acoustic parts they do are very finger picked, but this is definitely more like sort of strummed, and it like does that for a little while, and then it goes back into like explodes back into like this really really heavy riff, which is like one of my favorite parts of like any song ever, and it like always still to this day, even though I've like liked this song and listened to it over and over and over again for years, that like still like gives me goosebumps like every time I listen to that. Or it gives you that thing where you like shudder or whatever, you know. Yeah, anyways, so that's every single time that part comes on, I listen to it. And it's basically, so it like does that, and that's like really cool. But then like it does the heavy riff for a while, and then it like goes into this outro, which is like one of my favorite outros of all time, and it's just very, very emotional. And he's basically just like pleading with her, like basically to like come back to him, but like she doesn't know he's like there, basically. Anyways, so he's basically just, like really upset about that, and he's kind of like wailing about it with clean vocals, which are some of Mike Ockerfeld's really good clean vocals that come in. He's like my favorite all-around vocalist, and so it's really cool, and it transitions really well into Credence, which is awesome, because he says like at the end of every song, he basically says like the next song on the album title, so like it flows into the next song really really well. And he's like, and you have lost in me your credence. It's really sad. It's really good. Very emotional song. Not my favorite Opeth song because it's hard to compete with the likes of number 13, which is going to be the Leper Affinity. by Opeth, which is a song you predicted would be on there, and I was surprised that you predicted that song would be on there.
I thought it'd be higher too.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. It's not. It may or may not.
I thought it might be top 5. Or something like that.
No. But anyway, so it's a really good song. Obviously, Leper Affinity is the song that starts off an album that probably is my favorite album of all time. And you might call me a basic Opeth fan because that's also their most popular album is Blackwater Park. So it starts off that album, and it's like what a song to start off an album with. It like just starts off with some. It's very quietly. It builds for a while. I think that one of the first times I listened to it, the whole album, I was like, has it started yet? Because like there's maybe like a good 30 seconds or so where there's like nothing happening really. It's just like slowly building up. And then it kind of explodes into this like really dissonant riff. And Mike Ockerfeld says some of his best harsh vocals are on Blackwater Park, and he just yells, "We enter winter once again," and it just like sets off the whole thing. It's so good. And the first long ass time in the song is just like lots of like dissonant riffs and like really fast riffs and some weird time signatures. Opeth doesn't use that many like crazy time signatures, but this song has like a few riffs that are in like odd time signatures when you listen to it and get into it, and it's really cool. And then it goes into like one of Michael Ockerfeld's like famous kind of like clean sections, and it's like a really good clean section where it's really like haunting, like spooky vocals. And then it goes like back into a harsh vocal section and like really intense death metal-y section, and then finally like in like sort of outro-y quieter part. It's a really good song. It is number 13 on my list.
All right, my number 12 is my favorite band of all time.
Yeah.
Between the Buried and Me. Again,
Nice.
We're here again.
Between the Band and Me.
Yeah, and it's another song from an album I've talked about on this ProgPod already, and it is the closing track on the album, and the song is White Walls.
Nice.
And this is my favorite song on Colors, and one of my favorite BT Bam songs overall. And it's kind of a song that like is just like I think if you asked like if you asked every BT Bam fan, I think this song would win in the best song off. I think maybe it would be close, but I think it would win. It's very well received from the fan base.
Yeah.
And it is amazing. It's 14 minutes long. It's really long. And it opens with just like one of my favorite riffs ever. And it comes in from a song called Viridian, which is like a 2-minute interlude. And Viridian, I don't really listen to this song without Viridian. But Viridian is like a very mellow song that flows into this song. And it's just a 2-minute like instrumental, and it flows perfectly into this song. And there's just really a ton of just amazing riffs, but the opening riff is so good. And it just like immediately goes from that riff into like a big drum fill, and then like a super like harsh vocal section and really heavy section. And the first like 5 or 6 minutes of the song is like that. There's a lot of really, really technical playing going on, just like insanely technical stuff going on. And then it goes into this like more clean section. And the song is about like the band. It's like reflecting on like them deciding after they released Alaska that they were just gonna do 100% what they want to do always, because apparently they're like fans at the time were like kind of asking like, oh, like more stuff like Alaska or whatever.
Yeah.
And they just kind of were like, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to write, because Alaska is kind of a turning point where there's like more proggy stuff, but still that like more metalcore stuff.
Yeah.
And they were kind of done with the like metalcore stuff at that point. And they were like, no, we really want to do this like mega prog stuff.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, there's these lyrics that are really powerful, these clean vocal lyrics. And Tommy is singing like, this is all we have when we die. This is what we remember for when we die. And he's talking about their music. And like the band as a whole has stated this song is about like them like creating something they're really proud of, and after they're all gone, that like can be remembered or whatever. And that's a tough ask when people typically don't like music like this. But like it just shows a lot of like integrity or whatever. And there's a lot of prog bands that have songs about like musical integrity. And I get why a bunch of prog bands have songs like that. But yeah, the song is about that, and that section is always like really powerful. And then the song like again goes back to some heavy sections before coming to this awesome riff, and Tommy just like screaming, like he's just saying wide walls like over and over again, before coming back into this other riff. There's a lot of riffs in this song because they constantly change riffs like every 2 seconds, and then it like finally comes to this part, into this like part where like there's like a release almost, like and finally this like lead guitar comes through, and there's this like epic solo stuff, and it's one of like the most technical solos. I like enjoy it. It's so technical, and it's like really long. It's like 3 minutes long. It's a really long guitar solo, and it starts with this like melody that goes on. It just keeps building and getting like more technical. It goes on, and like eventually it like bursts into this like just insanely fast like solo that is just like absolutely nuts. And behind it, like Blake, their drummer, is just like going absolutely nuts behind it. Almost, it's like blast beaty almost at that part. And the solo is just like so emotional and like so well written, and again just like super impressive. And it finally like the solo like molds into like another kind of like, it's kind of like part of the solo almost, but it's like more of like a noodly section that like is reprising like the beginning of the album. And finally like there's like just some like piano like that again is reprising the first part of the album that comes in, and it's just such an amazing song, and it like closes out the album like perfectly. And I can't sing its praises enough. My number 11 is a song that you have already had on this top 10. Mine's just a little higher, so better than you. My number 11 is Microdeath, Softstar by Phideaux. This is my favorite song by him. Kind of just like had the two. I don't think you have any more, as far as I'm concerned. We both had two, and we both just had them flip-flopped a little bit. But yeah, this is still my favorite song from Phideaux. Eric talked a lot about it and said a lot of the things that I like about it as well, so I'm not going to harp on it too much. But just like, it's very, like, there's a lot of intricacies going on, and like all the reprises are amazing. And like Eric, the violin is like a really big highlight for me on this song. There's just so many cool violin solos. And the guitar solo, he talked about that. That is like my favorite moment in the song, I think. And it's one of my favorite guitar solos ever, actually. I'm not sure you know that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. It's actually not my favorite Phideaux guitar solo. That's my second favorite Phideaux guitar solo. My favorite is the one of the Inquisitor, actually. That's my favorite Phideaux guitar solo. But yeah, this guitar solo is just super emotional, and just the whole album is just like obviously super emotional. But it just like closes this album out perfectly, which I think is like sometimes hard to do when you're releasing like a series of albums, having it feel like almost complete but knowing it's not. And I think this album does like a really brilliant job of that, of like this song in particular, closing out this album, just like having this album feel complete, but like you at the end you're still left like, oh, this story like isn't over yet, or whatever. So I think it does that really well as well. So that's my number 11.
Nice. Okay, my number 12 is one that is a song on an album called Blackwater Park again. So 3 in a row from the same band. Opeth.
I thought Leper Affinity was your favorite song on the album, so this is a little surprising.
Interesting, yeah. So this one is a lot of people's least favorite song on this album. Maybe not. I mean, there's like a really short interlude that I'm not really counting. But I think this is a lot of people's least favorite song on the album. But a select few people have it as their most favorite song on the album. I may or may not be one of those people. We'll see. But anyways, this song is Dirge for November. And it's weird. It's one of the more simple Opeth songs. It basically just starts off with some like beautifully sung vocals by Michael Ockerfeld, and it kind of like, just kind of brief, and then it quickly like goes into like a sort of there's like some really cool acoustic guitar picking, and then like for a really long time it's just like kind of almost like a black metal-y type like thing going. Type riff that gets like repeated over and over almost, and then it like pauses for a while, and it basically just like goes back to that, and then there's like a really long like acoustic outro. So it's like pretty simple, because like a lot of times the Opeth song like switch back and forth between like different riffs and like different like moods and like different like harsh and soft parts like over and over and over again. But it's like doesn't do that as much. It does it like a couple times, but it's very like poignant. It's got some like really cool lyrics. And it's very emotional for me, on the most emotional song on the album for me. I really love a lot of the acoustic guitar work too that's going on. That like the finger picking. There's a thing that I didn't notice for like almost like a year after I first heard the song, but like in the last like basically the last like 2-ish minutes are like this like acoustic outro that happens. And like during that acoustic outro, there's like this like kind of really subtle like keyboard thing going on in the background, which is interesting because they didn't actually have an official keyboard player on the band at this point in their career, but it's like sort of going on in the background, and it's like it sounds like an ice cave or like a diamond cave or something. It's really subtle, but it really adds a lot to the song. And for some reason, when I heard that, I like was listening to it a bunch, and then that like was my reason for it like skyrocketing like up in my like appreciation. And I'm not just because of that one little thing, but like that like made me appreciate more like the depth of the song and everything. It's a really good song. May be my favorite song on the album. Anyways, so that was a cool one. My number 11 is one that I'm not going to talk about that much because it's actually kind of a similar thing where it was featured today by you, and you already talked about it a lot, and it's also the same position as, you know, your version of my song that I talked about. So anyways, so the song is one called The Architect by the band Haken, and it's actually really interesting because for a long time, it's actually surprising that it's higher up for me than it is for Brennan, because for a really long time, it wasn't even my favorite song on this album.
It was
Red Giant for a really long time. But in the past like year and a half or so, I've been listening to it, the album more, and like appreciating the album generally more. And like as I've like done that, this song has definitely been like the standout by like a huge margin. None of the other songs in the album are on this list, obviously. So so I won't say that much more about it, other than it's just like it starts off like so like crazily with the it's almost like instrumental dubstep when it starts, and just the way it evolves is like awesome. And the end, I think you mentioned this, but at the probably my favorite part of the song is at the end when it reprises Initiate. And that's just it's so cool. With Ross's like soaring vocals, and it's just awesome. And it being played to us in a live setting was like fucking amazing.
So good, yeah. We've
so
heard it twice now. Okay, so we're gonna do our song recs of the week, and my song I'm gonna rec is a short song. It's not a long song at all. I think it's like 4 minutes long, and the song is called Ballroom Kid. By Brian Scary.
Love that song.
And Brian Scary, no one knows who he is, and that's a shame. And he actually, I think he could appeal to a wider audience than a lot of the other stuff we listen to.
Seriously.
He's, I think he's a progressive rock artist, is what I call him. But there are a lot of pop like tendencies. A lot of people call him progressive pop or like art pop or art rock. There's a lot of progressive tendencies though. There's a ton of progressive tendencies, I think personally. This song is on a concept album that I don't know what it's about. It's like a Western though. I don't know specifically what it's about. But this song is really cool. It's called Ballroom Kid, and like literally the music just like encapsulates that perfectly. It's got this really like ragtimey like piano lead. And one of the things about Brian Scary is that he's like an excellent pianist. And it's got like really cool piano stuff, really like cool and like interesting lyrics and kind of like playful lyrics a lot of the time. And there's a really cool section in the song that like after like the second chorus, like there's this really cool like brass section that comes in that plays a really cool melody on the horns. And there's a really cool like again like the intro and the outro piano stuff is so cool. It does like a almost like a cartoony type like if you were watching like a Looney Tunes thing almost like kind of does. And it's really cool. It's really like technical, but it's really cool. It's a really great song, and I think it's like a good starting point to kind of get what he's all about. And like I definitely think if you like that song, you should check out Dappy's Elixir, which is the album it's off of, because it's an incredible album.
I feel like there's like a hint of creepiness in that album too. Because there's the one part where he's like, in that song, I mean, because there's the one part where he's like, Ballroom Kid, coming to get you. What does that mean?
The chorus is literally like that.
Exactly. Creepy. So mine is one I've like mentioned sort of in passing today, and it's by the band Moontooth, and the song is Thumbspike. So it's just like, it's weird. The song is almost like a rock and roll, but like turned metal. It's like a little heavier than most like rock would be song, and it's just like got classic kind of riffs and stuff. Like the riff that they play is sort of like again just like a rock and roll like metal riff, but it definitely like has a twist because it's supposed to be about like life on the road as like a touring artist, because they tour like nonstop. They just are gone for like months at a time sometimes. And so it's like basically about how like that life is like really difficult and like not being able to see your like loved ones for like weeks and weeks and weeks, and like being out on the road, but like also like enjoying it and enjoying the energy and enjoying playing for people. In fact, like one of the lyrics of the song is like, I love it so much I'd let you kill me, like when he's like talking about the shows or whatever. So to me, like it kind of like has those like metal riffs like I was talking about, sort of like almost old school metal riffs, and it's like interspersed with all sorts of like more proggy stuff going on, which is like the part where Nick Lee's playing like overhand like a typewriter, and like sort of like some chuggy stuff and some noodly stuff and some cool guitar solos. And then to me, like that part is like sort of like the like traveling around and like being sad and like being like, I can't deal with this. And then sort of the more metal riff is like them like playing to an audience and like trying to be all energetic and like showy and stuff and like being like a metal band. So it's really cool how that dynamic works out. Also a short song, it's like 4 minutes or something. It's one of my favorite songs on that album, and it's really good. So that's it.
And next week we will complete this journey with the final installment, our top 10.
Yeah. 5 hour long.
Yeah. The marathon.
Yeah, because this episode is going to be really long.
Top 10.
It's going to be a really long episode.
So, we'll conclude that next week.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to ProgPod.